My name's Clive Groves. My family has been growing violets here in West Dorset for many generations. I want to tell you today about growing or sowing violet seed. Violet seed is not an easy thing to germinate, so it's quite important that you listen to my words. First of all, you need to always have violet seed fresh, and we gather them from the mother plants about this time of year. During August we find the seed like this, we pop them open. If the seed's looking nice and brown colour, then we know they're ripe, so we can pick that seed. We take the whole pod and we place them into a seed packet, pod and all, that we can just leave for usually a couple of days. We don't let them to dry out too much, but just enough to take the wetness from them. And we place them in seed packets, and we also provide a little seed label with a waterproof name on it, so you don't even have to bother to write the label. Try to take care of all things like that. Now, when the seed arrives to you, it's very important that you sow it straight away, because the seed is very fresh. You sow it straight away and it keeps well in the soil. If you can't manage to sow it straight away, you can put them in a sort of zip packet, in a polythene zip packet, and put them into the fridge, the packet, the seed, everything, and that will keep them for a few days, but don't leave them too long. Right, now when it's time to sow, you've got a choice of various receptacles. I very often use these ordinary sort of little butter packs they come in. If you use this, make sure you just make it one or two drainage hose in the bottom, several of these drainage hose, and then what I like to do is to cut round the top, sort of right the way round here, so we end up with something like this. Place the soil in there, a nice gritty mixture of peat or peat alternative and horticultural grit. You'll need about 50-50, and sow the seed. I'll show you directly exactly how to sow the seed, but let's pretend we've sown the seed now. You can place the polythene on top and put the lid back on top securely, and this acts as a little mini greenhouse, if you like, a little mini frame. So that's one way. The other ways are simply using a half plastic seed tray like this, or you can use these sections if you haven't got very much to sow. If there's not a lot of seed and you've got several different varieties, this is very useful. But today, for our purpose, I've got quite a big amount of seed here to sow, so I'm going to use an ordinary standard seed tray. So here we are with our standard seed trays, a nice gritty mixture. Sometimes I like to put a bit of loam mixed with a multi-purpose compost in the bottom, and then put a lighter mixture, half and half, of horticultural grit and a multi-purpose compost on the top. Then there's not so strong a fertiliser or strong a soil to get them rooted. Once they are rooted, then they've got a little bit more goodness in the soil. If we tamp this down, make it nice and level, because it's a fairly small seed, and then before anything else you'll need to water them. I tend to use this little gadget here. It's very useful. We sell them in the garden centre, but this just gets it nice and moist. If you try and water it afterwards, there's a danger that you can wash the seed away or wash it up into a heap. So get this nice and moist first of all. There we are, that's about right. Okay, and then you'll need to take your seed packet. In this case we're sowing ours straight from the storage jar, and take a pinch of seed, pour it into the palm of your hand, and just sprinkle it fairly lightly over the surface. Takes a while to do this. I'll try and hurry the process a little bit. But you really don't want to put them too thick. If they come up as a blanket, then you tend to get damping off where the seed sort of rots away. This is actually what I'm sowing at the moment is Viola riviana, which is the common dog violet, often used by fritillary butterflies as a host plant. So there we are. That's about as thick as we want to sow them. Now you need a fairly fine sieve now, because we want to just cover the surface. So again, the same type of soil, but this time it's going to be much finer for the surface. And just shake the soil over the seed so that you just cover them. And then really you don't need to water them again. We just tap them down again to make the seed come in contact with the compost. That should do the job. Now you'll need to put the label in, I showed you earlier. Place it in there. Then several things you can do then, but it's important to realise that mice are very, very fond of violet seed, and ants have a habit of taking the violet seed away down into their nest to feed their young on. There's something very attractive there. So we need to stop this from happening. I very often just place a polythene bag over the seed tray, and you could use glass. Some people use glass, or I have even used a close mesh wire meshing before now. So there we go, covering the seed up. Now the thing which is important now is we're not sowing this as many seed go in. Many people sow their seed in spring. We're sowing this right now, and we're in August now. You can sow it in July, you can sow it in September, but you need to sow it before winter sets in, because to break the dormancy of the seed, you need to have a cool period. And so it's very important that you don't really mollycoddle them and put them in a nice warm greenhouse or in your kitchen. You need to cover them with this polythene, literally like that, and then leave them in a cold greenhouse, in a cold frame, or even in your garage, perhaps near a lighted window. And you leave them then, and nothing will happen at all until we get to February. And it's generally in February down here in the southwest that you'll see the tiny seedlings emerging from the soil. And if that happens, then you know you've had success. Thank you very much.